The MLB trade deadline is just 10 days away, and we got a bombshell of a report from Ken Rosenthal of The Athletic this morning. And quite frankly, this could change a lot for the Phillies bullpen if it were to happen. We're going to get into all of that today on the newest episode of Phillies Digest. My name is Luke Arcaini. Thank you guys for coming back to the channel. Yes, you might already know who I'm talking about by the picture in the intro. Mason Miller of The Athletics. There was an article this morning from Ken Rosenthal at The Athletic, and things got a little eye-opening in this article. I think that's probably my best word for it. Mason Miller was practically untouchable last year. You know, there was the huge package. There was nearly 5 years of control left on him. The package would have been insane. There was Phillies rumors, but the Phillies tried, and then the A's basically almost laughed at him to a point. But it seems like these rumors for Mason Miller may be starting to come back. So this is from Ken Rosenthal this morning of The Athletic. If you want to read his article, I will link it down in the description below. Miller on the move. A year ago, Athletics closer Mason Miller was untouchable. To this point, the A's messaging this season, we're not talking about him, is pretty much the same. But according to sources briefed on the team's plans, that stance is subject to change. The way the A's see it, only a few teams are bold enough to propose an offer for Miller worthy of consideration. General Manager David Forst might engage those teams as the deadline nears, but for now, he appears willing to let them grow more desperate. Which teams might tempt the A's? The Philadelphia Phillies, who reached agreement on Sunday with free agent reliever David Robertson, probably would be number one on the list. The Los Angeles Dodgers, with free agents Tanner Scott and Kirby Yates performing below expectations, almost certainly would be in the mix. So would the New York Yankees, who faced the losses of Devin Williams and Luke Weaver to free agency. Keep in mind, once again, Mason Miller is under control for a while. Over 3 more years left of control on his contract. And, you know, if you go and you sort of look at the stats, right, the ERA isn't great. But while I say that, he has an ERA plus of 103. His FIP is 287, which is a really good number for his FIP. He has a 1065. He has walked... the walks aren't on there. Damn. 35.2 innings pitched, just 4 home runs allowed, 57 strikeouts. One of those home runs actually was Max Kepler. He's allowing just 5.3 hits per 9, and he struck out 57 batters. But I don't want you to sway away because you see the ERA. Because if you really dive into it, Mason Miller has a 4.04 ERA in 35 games, but he has given up runs in just 7 of them. If you remove 3 games in which he gave up 11 runs, he has pitched 33 and a third innings and allowed just 5 runs. A 1.35 ERA if you remove those outings. And, you know, I understand, whatever. Look at the ERA, blah, 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 blah. This kid's nasty. And everyone that knows baseball and knows Mason Miller knows that this kid is nasty. And, you know, when you put him up against a bullpen that kind of looks like this right now, Jordan Romano, unfortunately, a failure of an offseason signing. Joe Ross, a failure of an offseason signing. Daniel Roberts, Seth Johnson, Max Lazar, you know, they're good right now. Like, they're good pieces for a regular season bullpen, and honestly, all 3 of them have flashed some pretty serious stuff. But, you know, in a perfect world, only one of those guys is in your bullpen in October, and it's probably Max Lazar. Obviously, yes, you have Matt Strom, Ryan Kerkering, and Tanner Banks has had a nice year after, you know, not expecting to have a ton of expectations this season once, obviously, Jose Alvarado went down. But the thing with Mason Miller is, like the article said, it's going to be a package. It's going to be a big package, and it's the matter of if the Phillies want to send a huge package for a relief pitcher, for a guy who pitches 3 times a week. You know, how he pitches 3 innings a week, not even 3 times a week, you know, 3-4 max innings a week. You know, is it worth it? Because yes, this bullpen needs help, but if the A's come to you and say, we want Andrew Painter, then do you trade a reliever for a guy who's probably going to be a really good starter on your team for a really good time? That's the conversations that sort of, you know, need to happen. But once again, Mason Miller on the season, 4.04 ERA, once again, seems a little skewed. What's big to me is he's nearly getting batters to whiff at over 40%. 35.2 innings pitched, 57 strikeouts with a 107 whip. Another update, if you guys haven't checked out the last video, go and check that out, because on August 5th, David Robertson's name will be added to this list. Yes, the old friend David Robertson, third time's a charm. The Phillies signed him last night to a $16 million prorated deal. He'll make about 5.5, but because the Phillies are over the luxury tax, it'll end up coming out to around an $11-12 million cost. He won't get all that money. He'll make around $6 million, but it'll end up being around an $11-12 million cost. David Robertson spoke to reporters down at the stadium today, and the Phillies expect him to be ready by August 5th, which is the earliest he can be activated. So he consented to an optional assignment to AAA just to kind of ramp up and get things going, because he hasn't really pitched in games yet this season. He's been a free agent up until now. He threw for scouts over the weekend, and the Phillies were intrigued, and they landed him. And he must spend 15 days there. So August 5th will be the first day to expect to see David Robertson. So, yes, he spoke down there at Citizens Bank today. He is there. He'll probably head to Lehigh Valley, I would say maybe tomorrow, to start ramping up down there. But he seemed excited. He was excited to be back in the organization, back in Philly. Said it's nice to go back to a team that you know the staff, you know a lot of the players, you know the field, like you just know everything about it. It's not a new team for a 40-year-old, and David Robertson has a track record. And while yes, he's not the home run reliever the Phillies need, they needed more than one reliever before they signed David Robertson. And the fact that they can go out and get a proven veteran who had a 3 ERA last year and a 1.7 ERA in 2022 with the Phillies in the postseason, and all it cost you was money, it's a win-win to me. So that is all of the updates for David Robertson. But this bombshell report once again this morning, Mason Miller, I want to know your guys' thoughts, because this is just pretty crazy. I didn't think this was going to be back on the table. I didn't expect the A's to want to trade Mason Miller, and it's not saying they want to trade him, but once again here, the way the A's see it, only a few teams are bold enough to propose an offer for Miller worthy of consideration. Their GM, David Forst, might engage those teams as the deadline nears, but for now, he appears willing to let them grow more desperate. Which teams might tempt the A's? Once again here, I'm reading this from Ken Rosenthal of The Athletic. I will link this down below. The Philadelphia Phillies, who reached agreement on Sunday with free agent David Robertson, probably would be number one on the list. I love it. Obviously, it depends on the package. I think the Phillies are going to get a high leverage reliever at this deadline. I would be absolutely floored if David Robertson is their only reliever move. They want Emmanuel Clase. They want Johan Duran. They want Mason Miller, obviously. It's just a matter of if they can get the best offer to the team, and if they're comfortable with some of the offers that they're going to have to send. Once again, this has been the newest episode of Phillies Digest. If you guys have not subscribed already, please do so. We are 10 days away from the MLB trade deadline. Myself, I personally, Sean Bernard, I do want to give a shout out if you've made it this far in the video. Sean, if you're watching as well, congratulations. Sean and his girlfriend got engaged over the weekend. So congratulations to Sean. He's on a little bit of a vacation right now. I'm here holding down the fort, riding solo this week here. But once again, congrats to Sean and his girlfriend on their engagement. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe on this video. 10 days till the trade deadline. We're going to be covering it all here on Phillies Digest. Peace.